Hey guys, it's Chris. From mysterious creatures with giant claws to ancient battlegrounds in weird places, here are 10 mysterious archaeological discoveries. Number 10. The Hand of A Moa, New Zealand, 1886. A group of archaeologists went to Mount Owen to examine and observe the underground complex of tunnels that lie beneath the mountain. Upon finding a large pile of bones, they found a claw that seemed to resemble a creature of the ancient past. This bird was flightless, but it was incredibly tall. Some say it was even over 9 feet in height. The bird creature was said to be extinct because humans, the Maori, who were the first to arrive on the island of New Zealand, saw them as a great source of meat and thus wiped them out. The interesting thing about the claw, though, was that it was very well preserved and even looked kind of fresh. So how did this claw get under the mountain? The preservation of the claw is also a topic of conversation, as none of the other bones that were found in the cave were anywhere close to how good the claw was preserved. A popular theory is that the moa species is actually still alive, and that the claw is a proof of this fact. But since a full-on moa hasn't been seen in hundreds of years, it's a mystery. Number 9. The Clava Cairn. Found in Scotland and said to have been made around 4,000 years ago, the Clava Cairn is a mysterious formation of stones in a circular and sometimes egg-shaped structure, made entirely of stones aligned in a certain way. Interestingly, there are actually 50 of these cairns in Scotland, and some of them have been identified as a passageway to a burial site of sorts. However, there are also cairns that are a perfect circle or egg shape and have no purpose outside of just being there. They are fully enclosed on a piece of random land. They have nothing in the middle of the formation where the land is exposed, and there's no writings or clues as to what they might be. Just as odd in the eyes of researchers is that some of the stones that make up these cairns are actually rather large, to the extent that it would have been extremely difficult for ancient people of the land to move them, especially if there was no purpose. There are many speculations as to what the Clava Cairns are, but nothing concrete has been proven as of yet. Number 8. The Jigsaw Mummies. Speaking of Scotland, in the Scottish Highlands in the early part of the 2000s, a dig was going on under a Bronze Age settlement that existed 3,000 years ago. As they dug deeper, they found 2 skeletons, a male and a female, and both of them were very well preserved. However, as they continued to observe the bodies, something felt very wrong with the bones. There were some that stuck out as odd, such as the woman's jawbone being bigger than it should have been, and some other inconsistencies. So to figure out what was going on, they took DNA from various bones on both bodies and had them get tested. When the results came back, it was discovered that they were looking at 2 skeletons, but they were comprised of bones from 6 different people. Someone had taken the bones of these people and then placed them in specific order to resemble 2 completed skeletons, and then buried them in a ritualistic way. After finding this out, it was discovered that the reason for the bones being in such great condition is that they were put into a peat bog, which is known to preserve the human body. So it's believed that whoever did this jigsaw puzzle put the original bodies into the bog, then fished them out later, and only then did he get the bones and arrange them as such. But why someone would go through such trouble is still very much unknown. Was this the work of a serial killer, and thus more jigsaw mummies like this are just waiting to be found? Was it a ritual of some kind? Why was this particular collection put into a peat bog to be preserved? That and more mysteries are waiting to be solved in regard to these mummies. Number 7. The Jordan Big Circles. Ever since satellite imagery became a tool in our world, we've seen the continents in a new way. And when said satellites were pointed near Jordan, they saw 8 very big and very mysterious circles carved into the ground. Though weirdly, they were first discovered in the 1920s, but only after recent surveys have there been any more research and study put into them. Combined, these 8 circles are known as the Big Circles, and that's meant to be taken literally, as they're between 720 feet and 1,490 feet in diameter. Further study into them has revealed that they were all clearly made by hand and hand tools, which is why some of them don't come off as perfectly circular. One researcher noted, most are crude circles, but many are clearly intended to be geometrically precise, although often slightly distorted. Given the size and shapes of said circles, it's clear to the researchers that this would have been a very long endeavor, which makes their placement, shape, and purpose all the more curious. What's more, not all of them are the same in terms of what's built on them or around them. Some are just dug into the dirt, while others have walls in them. The other problem is that dating them is nearly impossible. First, because there's no clear definition to when they were made, nor are there subtle clues to tease a more precise time. This has led the team studying them to believe they could have been made from any time between 2000 to 4500 BC, while others think they could have been made a lot sooner due to the soil and rocks in the circles. And as if that wasn't enough, 4 very similar circles were also found in Syria. Number 6. Ark of the Covenant. Arguably one of the most famous artifacts of all time, the Ark of the Covenant is said to be a thing of great power. But not from the people who have seen it personally in the modern day, but rather from the Bible that describes it in great detail. The Ark of the Covenant was covered on all sides with gold, in which was a golden jar holding the manna, and Aaron's rod which budded, in the tablets of the covenant. The tablets of the covenant is another name for the 10 Commandments that Moses brought down from Mount Sinai in the book of Exodus. What's important to note here is that this relic was one of the most important things in Jewish culture at the time. The Ark of the Covenant was moved around during times of battle as a symbol of God being with the people, yet they were always careful about where it was placed, who saw it, and more. It was stated that God himself was within the ark, and that those who weren't worthy of touching it would suffer, such as in the Bible when the ark was slipping from the apparatus that Jews used to move it. A man reached out and touched the ark to put it back in place, and he died on the spot. Uzzah reached out and took hold of the ark of God because the oxen had stumbled, and the anger of the Lord burned against Uzzah, and God struck him down on the spot for his irreverence, and he died there beside the ark of God. 2 Samuel chapter 6 verses 6 through 7. But where is the mystery of this archaeological find? That would be the mystery of why no one has found it yet. Most historians and archaeologists do believe that the Ark of the Covenant did exist at one time, but where it is now, well, no one knows. Looking throughout history, there are places many suspect it could have ended up, such as Babylon when they conquered and assimilated Israel, or that it could have been lost when the first temple was destroyed. And others think that the Jews buried it somewhere in order to keep it out of enemy hands. But no one is certain where this sacred treasure is, which is why it's become a popular item to talk about in pop culture in regards to movies like Indiana Jones and the Raiders of the Lost Ark, where the Ark was found before being taken by top men and hidden in a warehouse. There are some reports, though, that state the Ark is in a monastery in Ethiopia, but these are unconfirmed. Number 5. The COCHNO Stone. Found in 2016, the COCHNO stone was discovered in Glasgow, Scotland, and it was something that was immediately deemed unusual, mainly because it was very large. As it wasn't just a stone, it was a stone slab, one that was 43 feet by 26 feet. Also, it was 5,000 years old, which puts it well before Scotland was even a notion of a nation. Once observed, archaeologists found even more confusing things on it in the form of scribbles and designs and patterns. While not unusual as a whole, as this was common for ancient people, it was noted that these patterns have shown up in other places of the world, which would mean a very weird coincidence, or the same people made these patterns in multiple parts of the world. But what the scribbles and patterns mean, though, is currently unknown. Number 4. COELACANTH. While not exactly an archaeological find in the grand sense, this particular discovery of a certain creature of our oceans did lead to many mysteries. People had only found fossils of the creature for hundreds of years. And when you go fishing, you don't ever expect to catch an extinct animal, especially one that's been extinct for 65 million years. But for the coelacanth, that's exactly what happened when it was rediscovered by a fisherman off the coast of Africa. This fish was created during the Cretaceous period, back when dinosaurs ruled the earth. And by the time the modern age arrived, it was just assumed that the coelacanth was extinct, especially when fossils of the creature were found and no other fish in the water that we knew of looked like it. Then in 1938, a marine biologist found this long dead fish while looking through a fisherman's haul. And not only was it a coelacanth, it looked exactly like the fossils that were found of its kind. Eventually, another species of coelacanth was found in the waters around Indonesia, further proving that the species was alive and well. The question now is, how did it stay hidden for so long? And the answer just might be the simplest of all: space. There's a lot of places to be in the ocean, and the coelacanth is thought to live in somewhat deep waters, which makes it incredible that it was caught at all. This, alongside other known animals like the frilled shark, raises the mystery of how many other extinct animals live in the oceans of our world. Given that humanity hasn't found everything within the oceans, the number could be quite a bit higher than you would expect. Number 3. Ancient battle. In 2010, a group of archaeologists went to Sweden to study an ancient city from the 5th century. Upon exploring some of the houses, they found a body on the ocean floor of one, or more accurately, the skeleton of one. This struck the scientists as odd because it should have been buried, but as they continued to search the abandoned houses, they found even more bodies, and all of them were just scattered about the houses they were in. Looking closer at them, they realized that the bones had markings of weapons upon them. It dawned on us that this was actually a massacre, said Clara Ofstetter, a graduate student at Linnaeus University in Sweden and an archaeologist with the Bohuslän Museum. They were basically going from door to door just killing everyone, from young children to older individuals. Further examination showed that the attack was done quietly, like an ambush or a sneak attack to not cause mass panic. One even likened the attack to something out of Game of Thrones. 200 to 250 people were believed to be in the village, so many more bodies have yet to be found. Only around 26 were discovered in the initial search. Number 2. NAZCA lines. In Peru, there are a series of shapes and formations made into the ground by an ancient tribe called the NAZCA. Appropriately, these formations are called the NAZCA lines. These geoglyphs are found within one of the high deserts of Peru, and their shape, scale, and detail have left many both impressed, horrified, and confused. At ground level, you won't see anything, but when you go up in the sky, the true forms of the NAZCA lines emerge. You'll see basic shapes, but then you'll also see birds and other animals. And then you might even see some stylized shapes that resemble humans. The two biggest questions when it comes to the NAZCA lines are why and how. Well, it's fair to say it's not impossible to make such lines as these. To do it in the ancient times, and their estimated creation is put between 1 and 700 AD, well, that would undoubtedly be a challenge. But the NAZCA did it, and they continued to do it. Not only did they do it, they did it with extreme precision. There's one line that actually goes 9 miles in length and it's perfectly straight, a feat that's even more impressive when you hear that they were done by hand. There have been many theories as to why the NAZCA lines were created. Some say they're symbols of their gods. Some say they're prisons for monsters or signals to beings in the sky. And the truth is, well, no one knows for sure what the truth is. But they are preserved and studied to this day. Number 1. Göbekli Tepe. Göbekli Tepe is actually Turkish for Potbelly Hill, but its historical significance is much grander than its name, and just as mysterious. This structure was apparently made 6,000 years before Stonehenge, putting it very likely at 11,000 years ago in terms of being built. The structure itself is nearly 2,500 feet above sea level and is nearly 1,000 feet in diameter. Upon first finding, many actually felt that Göbekli Tepe was nothing more than a cemetery. But then, as research went on, a series of pillars with ancient writings on them were discovered, proving that it was much more than it appeared. Currently, 200 pillars in this area have been found, and all of them are within 20 circles scattered throughout the place. As for its purpose in Turkey, well, that's up for debate. The person who discovered the importance of it, Klaus Schmidt, believed that it was a sanctuary area, not unlike a church, even noting that it would make sense because it was clearly not a settlement where people lived, but a place with a very special purpose. Perhaps the very beginning of a religion. Others take a similar approach and believe that Göbekli Tepe could be a temple of some kind. In 2018, the site was designated a UNESCO World Heritage Site, ensuring that it will be protected and preserved. Thanks for watching. What did you think of these mysterious archaeological finds? Let me know in the comments below. Be sure to subscribe to World List before you leave, and I'll see you next time.